Us as well. Speaking of clarifications, the government has gone ahead and issued a clarification on an amendment to the finance bill which levies a tax on the subsidies and other financial benefits given by the government to individuals and companies. The finance ministry has clarified that individuals will not have to pay any tax on the direct subsidy transfer on LPG and any other social welfare schemes. Corporates, though, will have to pay a tax on the monetary benefits it gets from the government. Remember, CNBC TV 18 was the first channel to point out that the government has amended the finance bill to bring in such a clause. In fact, we were joking about it just last evening on whether the LPG scheme would now be taxable as far as the consumer is concerned with this amendment being put forth in the finance bill. But getting back to the other top story, we are getting a step closer to the goods and services tax. Rajiv Dimri, leader of indirect tax at BMR and Associates, joins us now. Rajiv, appreciate you joining us on CNBC TV 18. It looks like tomorrow we are going to see the goods and services tax bill being passed by the lower house of parliament. Most parties have come out in support of the bill, including the BJD, the Shiv Sena, the NCP and even the TMC. The Congress says that it supports the GST but it doesn't support this version of the bill. But the big question now is about the revenue neutral rate. Today every party made it clear that anything close to 25 to 27% would be unviable. In fact, Supriya Sule of the NCP calling it a ridiculous rate. I know it's not directly connected to the constitutional amendment bill, but is this going to be a serious cause of concern, the high possible rate of GST?
Well, I agree that the high GST rate would be detrimental and therefore the rate has to be more measured than the high rate of 25-27%. However, when it comes to the Constitution Amendment Bill, the bill itself is only the framework for introduction of GST. The debate on revenue neutral rate will happen when the actual GST law at the federal and at the state level is being passed. So while it is a valid concern and therefore ought to be discussed, but I don't think that factor alone should decide whether the Constitution Amendment Bill should go through or not.
Right. Concerns also being raised, Rajiv, today about the dual administration of tax, and these are concerns that we've spoken about in the past as well. Will the benefits of simplified GST regime be negated because of this dual administration?
I think this is a very, very important issue. And if you recall, Shireen, at the beginning of this whole concept, there was to be a supreme power with the GST Council, with veto, which became politically unacceptable. We do need somewhat of a body that has the ability to dictate terms or to make decisions, because what we absolutely cannot have is one agency taking the interpretation in another way and another agency taking a different way, because that will simply not work. So yes, that is a huge issue, and whether it requires empowering the GST Council, because that's the only viable solution. We've already made the concessions in the process of building up this consensus amongst the states, but yes, that is a very, very big issue in the overall scheme and the design of GST.
Right. One of the other concerns raised by several parties in Parliament today was the inability of state governments to impose a tax on tobacco and tobacco products. The TMC, the BJD, the NCP, just about every party spoke about the state government's inability to levy additional taxes. If the government were to make a compromise on this front, we don't know whether they will or not. If any further concessions were to be made, would it only complicate matters further?
I think let's take it at a conceptual level that if, one of the big reasons for contemplating and looking forward to GST is that it simplifies things from plethora of taxes. It brings it down to more coordinated approach to indirect taxes or consumption taxes. If the states will have the ability to start introducing new taxes or taxes on different aspects, the fear of the industry is that over a period of time, will it go uncontrolled and unchecked when there is no constitutional provision to prevent them, or a GST Council provision to prevent them. And therefore, the larger fear is that over time, will this unravel itself in a way that is not desired? Will states, in addition to GST, start picking and choosing things and start applying taxes, tobacco being one area where it is being discussed? But I don't think the debate gets limited at tobacco itself. It's the core concept that having gone so far in introducing GST, which will have its own transition issues, are we really solving the problem, or will we leave aside issues that can come back and become bigger.
Well, that's right. But Rajiv, the government is hopeful of passing the bill tomorrow in the Lok Sabha. The finance minister said that if the bill were to get delayed any further, then it could be very hard to meet the April 1, 2016 deadline. Do you believe that, we are likely to meet that deadline because state governments will now need to ratify the bill individually within their own assemblies? Do you believe an April 1 rollout still looks feasible, looks doable?
If the bill not only Lok Sabha but also through the Rajya Sabha gets passed before May 13th, while there is a process of ratification and all of those things, if the authorities, the central and state agencies, are very quickly able to come out with draft laws, draft rules, I think April 1 is still a feasible deadline. But like I said, the key requirement is that the states, as soon as the bill gets passed by the parliament, must come out with all the information as much as they can share. And therefore, there is still a possible chance for April 16th, and I think it's a good chance. If this process doesn't get completed between Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha by May 13th, then I think April 1 will look challenging.
All right, Rajiv Dimri, we'll have to leave it there. The Lok Sabha are likely to pass the Goods and Services Tax Constitutional Amendment Bill tomorrow, and then it will be to the Rajya Sabha, and we're hoping that perhaps both houses will pass the bill before the 13th of May to ensure that we actually see the GST being rolled out on the 1st of April.